Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, my name is James Abiodun Faleke. I represent Ikeja Federal Constituency from Lagos State. Urgent need to investigate the 9.2 billion contract for clean stove for rural women scheme under the last administration. Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, the House notes that the last Federal Executive Council approved a contract for the supply of 20 million units of clean stove and wonder bags under the clean stove scheme for rural women at the unit cost of 464 naira and for a total value of 9,287,250,000 naira only. The House is aware that following the approval of the Federal Executive Council, the Federal Ministry of Finance released the sum of 5 billion only to the Federal Ministry of Environment for the execution of the project. The House also notes that as part of the measures in the climate change policy, the clean stoves were meant for distribution to women in rural areas through the state ministries of environment to discourage the use of firewood for cooking, which was alluded to be one of the causes of desertification in the country. Also aware that Measures Integral Energy Renewable Services Limited was awarded the contract for the supply of the 20 million units and was paid the sum of 1.3 billion out of the 5 billion released by the Federal Ministry of Environment as mobilization fee without due process. The House is concerned that less than 750,000 units were said to have been assembled and delivered at the Velodrome of the National Stadium, Abuja, and commissioned by the former Vice President, His Excellency Namadi Sambo, without any beneficiary present or later being given the stove to achieve its intended purpose. Resolves to mandate the Committees on Anti-Corruption and Environment and Habitat to 1. Investigate the details of the contracts, the number of units supplied, the mode of distribution and names of beneficiaries on a state-by-state basis, if any. 2. Determine the status of the balance of 952 million naira that is with the contractor, since 750,000 units of clean stove were supplied at a unit cost of 464 with a value of 348 million naira out of the 1.3 billion paid out. To find out whether or not the clean stoves and wonder bags projects have in any exceptional way assisted or is assisting in eradicating desertification in Nigeria for future consideration. And finally, confirm the status of the balance of 3.7, which was outstanding with the initial payment, from the initial payment to the Federal Ministry of Environment, and report back to the House within 6 weeks for further legislative action. Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, I so move.
Please lead the debate.
Abiodun Faleke. I represent Ikeja Federal Constituency from Lagos State. Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, this is an investigative motion, and I will just draw the attention of my colleagues to some vital points. In a bid to fight desertification by the last administration, it awarded a contract for the supply of 20 million stoves, 20 million stoves and wonder bags to be distributed to rural women. The question that arose was that how many women do we have in Nigeria that are presently or that were using firewood? Were they limited to 20 million? And then what was that 20 million expected to achieve? However, despite the limitations in the quantities and lack of verification of the number of women that will have access to that particular program, 1.3 billion was paid to the contractor to supply, as a first installment, to supply the volumes. But the contractor, a German company, supplied only 750,000 units. Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, the entire clean stove are lying at the National Stadium, Abuja, unused, undistributed and unused. The question then is, why the waste of these funds. As of today, Mr. Speaker, nobody can account for the 952 million naira left with the supplier. Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, the initial sum that was released was 5 billion, out of which 1.3 was paid by the Federal Ministry of Environment. What happens to the 3.7 billion left? We want to know. Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, when last week, the Federal Executive Council awarded the contract for the repair of Kaduna-Abuja Road for 1,058 million. I wonder then why 952 million is still left with a contractor which is not his money. If we have added little money to it, we can repair any other federal roads. And of course, the so-called cooking stoves. We want to know whether it has any impact at all on our desertification projects. So the essence of this motion, Mr. Speaker, is for us to investigate these contracts for supply of wonder bags and wonder stoves and to find out whether or not it has wonderfully affected the desertification project. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues.
Those against it say nay. The ayes have it.